Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. The City Council will hold a public hearing and make the final decision on all matters before the Commission, other than site plans and subdivision plots, unless denials or conditional approvals thereof are appealed. Please contact the City Clerk or Community Development Department staff for details on council hearings. Applicant will be given 10 minutes to present the request. Proponents and then opponents from the public are then allowed to speak in that order, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Applicant is then allowed 5 minutes for a rebuttal. The hearing will then be closed and the Commission will discuss and vote on the issue. All comments are to be germane to the item under consideration and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda will not be individually discussed and will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report unless an individual present or member of the Commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately under the public hearing agenda. The City of Des Moines is pleased to provide accommodations to individuals or groups with disabilities and encourages participation in city government. To better serve you when possible, please notify us at least 3 business days in advance at 515-283-4209 should special accommodations be required. Assistive listening devices are available for meetings in the council chambers. Planning and Zoning Commission meetings are broadcast on Mediacom Cable Channel 7.1 or 7.2 for customers with that service. Transportation for City of Des Moines meetings can be scheduled to and from Dart Central Station at 620 Cherry Street. To reserve your route, please call Dart on-call scheduling at 515-283-8136. Calls for trips will be accepted until 5 p.m. of the day prior to the meeting. Please be sure to mention in your request that you require transportation for the City of Des Moines meetings at this location. This notice is intended to comply with accessibility requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I believe we have a quorum. And we welcome our chair, Jackie.
Yes, thank you. Cut by a train. You done? Yeah. All right, so we have established a quorum, and we have the minutes of the November 15th meeting. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the minutes as written.
Great. All those in favor of approving the November 15th Plan and Zoning Commission meeting, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, are there any abstentions?
Yeah, I am. I was out of town. Yeah.
Abstentions?
I was out. I wasn't here last time.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. And was there anybody who was wanting to vote no? Very good. Now, we have a quite lengthy consent public hearing, and I just want to double check there's nothing that you
Jason's
think.
got it.
Go ahead.
Chair, members of the Commission, Jason Van Essen, City Planning Staff. As everybody gets settled, we do have some updates, and with regard to the agenda, possible consent items, some items that need to be continued or at least are being requested to be continued. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and walk us through that. Right now, so we have 11 items on the agenda. Items 1 through 7
Right.
are on the consent agenda. We will need to walk through those at here in a minute and see if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to have those pulled. But the items 8 through 11 are on the public hearing agenda currently. Item 8 has requested that their item be continued to the December 20th meeting. So that's a continuation request. Staff supports that. Item 9 is they are in agreement with the staff recommendation and are agreeable to having that item moved to the consent agenda. So item 9 can go to the consent. Item 10 is another item. There is a revised staff report that's in front of you. We had some clarification and some language, nothing related too much to content. There was an element, an architectural feature that we didn't notice initially We did add that through the discussion in the staff report, so it's element at the northeast portion of the building. And then, so this is the revised staff rec that's in front of you. So we added that discussion there. We had some language that contradicted itself a little bit in item 2. We struck the reference to 60 feet and left it to the satisfaction of the city engineer because it may end up being less than 60 in order to get it work right. So we felt that that was a good way to clear that up. And then item 7, there is a zoning condition on the property that references C1 signage. The applicant is reviewing that currently against their draft signage program. And since their signage program is in a draft state, it's unknown at this time. They may seek to rezone or remove that zoning condition, but that's a decision to be made later. They'd have to submit an application. And so in order not to muddy the water tonight, while we're just reviewing the site plan, we are recommending to strike that language and just leave on the site plan a reference to the freestanding sign overlay district. So that's the change to item 10. The applicant is in agreement, so that item could move to the consent agenda. And then item 11 is another request for a continuation. The applicant is hoping to meet with staff to discuss their staff report a little further. We did recommend denial. So they are requesting it be continued to December 20th, and staff is supportive of that request. So just to quickly, again, 8 is continuation to the 20th, 9 consent, 10 consent, and 11 continuation to the 20th. That would address every item on the public hearing agenda, but then we would need to read through the items that are on the consent hearing just to make sure we don't have anybody in the audience is here for those.
Exactly.
Or any of the items that I've mentioned.
Right, so what I'd like to do is start with the 2 that you want to move to the 20th.
Okay?
So we'll start with item number 8, which was a request from TK Development for allowing the revision of the plat on the southern portion of the property to reconfigure the street layout and provide the 57 single-family residential lot. Is the applicant here? But you're understanding that they are good with moving this to the 20th?
Yeah, we'd actually recommended
Okay.
denial of their request unless they wanted to continue it.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure. And then was there anybody in the audience that was here to speak on that item? All right, so is there a motion to move item number 8 to consent? To continue to the 20th. Thank you, Jan. All those in favor of moving item number 8 from tonight's agenda, continue to December 20th. Please signify by raising your hand. Okay, thank you. And so item number 11 is the request from J.S. Baker Properties to rezone property located at 2800 East University. Is the applicant with us tonight? And you believe that they are agreeable to moving to consent?
They submitted an email request.
To the continuing, okay.
Yeah, they requested it.
All right, was there anyone here in the audience tonight that wanted to speak to this item? All right, is there a motion from the commission to move item number 11 to continue to the December 20th meeting?
I'll move. Item
Thank you.
11.
All those in favor of continuing item number 11 to December 20th, please signify by raising your hand. All right. Okay, so now we will read through, we need to move the public hearing consent to consent. So item number 6.
9.
The ones you want to add?
Correct. So item number 9.
9, yeah.
So item number 9, which is a request from CHI doing business as Mercy Medical Center for review and approval of a site plan amendment to College Hill. Is the applicant here tonight? All right, and are you agreeable to moving this item to consent? And was there anyone in the audience that wanted to speak to this item tonight? All right, okay, so seeing none, and the applicant has said he's agreeable to move to consent, is there a motion from the commission?
I'll move.
Thank you. All those, and I will be abstaining from this vote. All those in favor of moving item number 9 to our consent agenda, please signify by raising your hand. Is there anybody abstaining besides me? Okay, so there's 2 of us. And Mike. So this item will become a consent agenda. Item number 10 is a request from Nelson Development for property located at 2650 University Avenue regarding vacation of north-south alley between 26th Street and 27th Street, air rights adjoining the south 1.5 foot of University and east 1 foot of 27th Street, and subsurface rights within adjoining south 3 feet of University Avenue and adjoining east 3 feet of 27th Street, and also a review and approval of the site plan Home 2 Suites Des Moines at Drake University for development of a 5-story hotel building with 124 guest rooms in subsurface off-street parking. So is the applicant here tonight for this item?
He's here.
All right, and are you agreeable to moving this item to our consent agenda? Thank you. And is there anyone in the audience that did wish to hear this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion from the commission to move this item to consent?
I'll move.
Thank you.
Dory.
Okay. All those in favor of moving item number 10 to our consent agenda, please signify by raising your hand. Got that? Okay. Were there any abstentions on this one? No? Okay. All right, so for our consent agenda tonight, we will start with item number 1. This is a request from for review and approval of preliminary plat Hapke Acres located on 3191 Northeast 46th Avenue within a 2-mile distance for extraterritorial review of subdivision plats by the City of Des Moines to allow the property to be divided into 3 lots on frontage Northeast 46th Avenue for residential development. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to hear this item? All right, seeing none, the item will remain on consent. Item number 2 on consent is a city-initiated request for vacation of undeveloped right-of-way on East Vine and Southeast 9th Street. East Vine from Iowa Interstate Railroad Southeast 9th, East Vine Street from Southeast 9th to Norfolk Southern Railroad, Southeast 9th from Norfolk Southern Railroad and the Iowa Interstate Railroad, North-South Alley between Southeast 8th and Southeast 9th from East Vine Street to allow to the Iowa Interstate Railroad, and North-South Alley between Southeast 9th and Southeast 10th from Norfolk Southern Railroad to the East-West Alley, and then the East-West Alley between East Vine Street and East Market Street from the Iowa Interstate Railroad to Southeast 10th. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to hear this item? All right, seeing none, this item will remain on consent. Item number 3 is a request for vacation of surface rights on a 4-foot by 4-foot segment on the west side of Main Street, adjoining the subject property to accommodate a door swing encroachment by the existing building. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to hear this item tonight? All right, seeing none, this item will remain on consent. Item number 4 is a request from 1350 East Washington for review and approval of a site plan, Whittier School Lofts, under design guidelines for multiple family dwellings for property located at 1350 East Washington Avenue to allow conversion of a building to a 6-unit multiple family dwelling. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to hear this item tonight? All right, seeing none, this item will remain on consent. Item number 5 is a request from Blackbird Investments for regarding property located at 555 Walnut Street. The request is to allow vacation of 16-foot by 24-foot segment of air rights over adjoining Walnut Street to allow for a swimming pool to extend from the 33rd floor of the proposed building, and a review and approval of a site plan, 515 Walnut Tower, under design guidelines for multiple family dwellings to allow for development of a 33-story building with 336 residential units. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to hear this item tonight? All right, seeing none, and I'm sorry I haven't asked the commission if there's anyone who wishes us to pull this item or any of the above. All right, seeing that, then this item will remain on the consent. Item number 6 is a request to rezone property located at 1145 and 1147 24th Street. This request is to determine whether the proposed rezoning is in conformance with the existing Plan Des Moines, the amendment to Plan Des Moines future land use from low medium density residential to neighborhood mixed use, and to rezone property from R160 one family low density residential district to MPC to allow expansion of off-street parking for existing multiple family dwellings and for shared parking for nearby mixed use. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to hear this item tonight? Sir, you do? All right, so that means we'll pull this from consent so that it will allow you an opportunity to hear you wish to hear the commission discuss this, correct? All right, so we'll pull item number 6. Item number 7 is a request from CS Family Properties to rezone property located at 1900, 1904, 1912, and 1914 Southwest 1st. This is to rezone from R3 multiple family residential to downtown Riverfront District to allow redevelopment of the property for senior living apartments with a density of 40 units per acre, and a vacation of the north-south alley between Southwest 1st and Southwest 2nd from Edison to Columbus Avenue. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes us to pull this item from consent? You do? All right. So the items... Oh, yes, sorry, thank you. So we also have item number 9, which was the request from Catholic Health Initiatives to review and approve a site plan amendment to College Hill for property located at 921 6th Avenue to remove the requirement for replacement of 2 light pole fixtures in the public right-of-way of 5th Avenue. And the applicant has expressed that he was fine with this item being on consent, but was there anyone in the audience who wishes us to pull this item to hear this? Seeing none, is there anyone on the commission who wishes us to pull this item? All right, so that item will remain on consent. Item number 10 was the request from Nelson Development for property located at 2650 University Avenue. The applicant was agreeable to this item being on consent. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to hear this item tonight? All right, is there anyone on the commission? All right, so that item will remain on consent. So if I have this correct, the items tonight on the consent agenda are items number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6.
No, no.
Number 9, I'm sorry, I wrote 6 over the top of it. Number 9, number 10. Is there a motion for those consent items?
I'll move.
Thank you, Jan. All those in favor of consent items that I just named, please raise your, oh. Yes, but I'm abstaining on item number 9.
And I am also recusing myself on item number 9.
Right? Were there any nays, by the way, on the consent? All right, thank you for your patience with that. So we will now move to the item that was pulled, beginning with item number 6. And so Jason, do you want to?
Chair, members of the commission, Jason Van Essen, city planning staff. This is an aerial identifying the subject property highlighted in yellow. It's 2 parcels, both with dwellings, multifamily dwellings that are converted houses or single-family dwellings. The applicant also owns property to the south, a couple parcels, including a commercial building that immediately adjoins and is zoned NPC. The response cards are being passed around. We had 2 response cards in favor and support. That's response map. The purpose of the request is to allow a parking lot to be constructed to the rear of these 2 buildings that would serve the commercial property to the south, along with the 2 multifamily buildings. This is a rezoning, so we're not reviewing a site plan at this time, but the applicant did give us a site sketch to show generally what it is they're, hit the wrong button. What they're thinking. So this is their catering facility building to the south. You can see the 2 multifamily buildings and a parking lot coming off the alley with a few stalls, trash enclosure, provide additional parking for these buildings. With it being an NPC zoning request, if it does get approved, this would come back to you for a site plan review through the NPC design guidelines. So that would come back. We'd have a public hearing just like tonight for the review of that. So tonight we're really just focusing on whether or not it makes sense to amend the land use plan to rezone this. In staff's analysis, we are supporting it. We have some conditions, zoning conditions that we're offering. This property to the south is shown on the future land use map as commercial. It's zoned commercial. You have the commercial corridor to the north. You have commercial zoning directly to the north. We felt that it was an appropriate request to support. We just have a list of zoning conditions, so we are recommending approval. And with a long list of items that would be prohibited. And I don't know if this list will look familiar to you or not. A year or so ago, we had the rezoning request for the studio facility to the north. That was the recording studio. These are the exact same zoning conditions we used there. They're also zoning conditions that I think were applied to the Drake Alumni Hall when that came through. So prohibiting a lot of uses just don't make sense in this kind of setting. So they're nothing out of the ordinary, except for it just doesn't make sense here. The other part of that is that we are recommending that signage be limited to a C1 level signage. NPC allows either C2 or C1 depending on what it was zoned previously. Since this was not commercially zoned previously, we wanted to go ahead and go with that more limited amount of signage since this is a little further into the neighborhood. So that's the staff recommendation. Happy to answer any questions.
Jason, could you show the consent map? There were 3 cards passed around, and I think the map only showed 2 of those?
I apologize. There's
Oh, okay.
down here. I just didn't pick it up when I was looking at the map.
Can you just tell us, is it a resident? That one that we can't see?
It is a residence. I don't know whether it's single family, duplex, multi-family, rental. The owner is listed as Samuel Simon.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
No.
This isn't a question, but it's a comment. I think that these new aerials that the community development is using for the reports is extremely helpful. I applaud the staff for developing this device. It makes things much clearer. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. I'll definitely pass that on. So.
And easier to read, follow what you're reading. Yeah.
Jackie?
Yeah.
so in NPC zoning, we can have a full parking lot?
I'm sorry, what's that?
We can have a full parking lot in NPC zoning?
Sure. And I mean, there's actually, the primary use is still, there's multifamily in front of it, but if it's associated with the commercial building to the south, it's a single owner.
Can I see that sketch again of the site plan you had?
Sure. So these are the buildings.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Yeah. It's all owned in common, even though it's multiple parcels.
Okay. I thought they were taking down the homes. Okay.
Nope.
That answer your question? Okay. Anyone else? Questions, Jason? All right, is the applicant with us this evening?
Are you the applicant? Yes. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, you want to be here?
I think it's gonna-
And if you could identify name and address for the record, thank you.
Oh, my name is Robert Mulvihill. I'm the officer that owns those 4 parcels. And I submitted this request to add more parking. Just going back, the 1147 building at the top used to have a driveway, but Drake owned it and they tore it up to put grass on it. So my tenants there park on the street. And that normally wasn't a problem, but then I think like 2017, Drake, the building to the north, changed their tenant from ROTC to Vote Smart. And there's probably a dozen people that work there during the day. And so 24th Street is pretty filled with cars during the day now. It used to be kind of a sleepy street, but it's not anymore. And then to the south, the 1139 building that I own, I'm starting a business within like a month or so. And I anticipate that to draw some traffic as well. So and because of that, I have tenants that have smashed mirrors inside of their cars from parking on the street. So I just kind of want to help the tenants and just give more parking in general. So that's why I put in the request.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you
I
very
do
much
actually
for
have a
the
question.
explanation.
Jackie?
Oh, very good.
So are you in agreement with the staff recommendations?
Yes, I am.
I didn't know if there was a reason why you pulled it, or is there something to discuss, or?
Oh, I guess maybe I didn't understand. I thought
Okay.
it was more people.
No
wanted to
problem. Thank
consider.
Oh, I take it that you wanted to explain about the parking, which that was
yeah.
helpful. Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who also wishes to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone who might have questions? Jason, did you have something to add? No. Okay. So we'll close the public hearing. Commission, what is your pleasure on this item? It was consent. So.
Staff.
All those in favor of staff recommendation?
Wait.
on-
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. Yeah, we're still on item 6. Yeah. All those in favor of staff recommendation on item number 6, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. Is there any opposition? Right. So now, item number 7.
All right, Chair, members of the commission. Item 7 has multiple parts. Parts A and B have to do with the land use plan and an amendment to that. C is the rezoning, and I'll get into that a little further. And then Part D is a vacation of an alley. The rezoning and the alley are noticed separately, and so I have 2 different response maps, and there's different response cards that came back. A lot of them were the same people, but just in case there's a little confusion, I do need to show both. But so just first quickly get us oriented. This is, Indianola Avenue off to the east. The Raccoon River is to the kind of the north and to the west. Indianola Road. You can see the site. The site actually is larger, but the rezoning is only affecting part of the property. The property right now is currently zoned, this part DR, downtown riverfront. So half of the site is already zoned the way that the rest of it is proposed to be rezoned to. This site is zoned R3, which a lot of the land around it is zoned R3, which is a multifamily zoning classification. So both of these zoning districts that are on the ground today allow multifamily development. The other part of the request is the vacation and purchase of the alley that's through the middle. Vacation of right-of-way requests come to you for a recommendation. The City Council will make the final decision on that, as well as the rezoning proposal. And I apologize. So this is the notice map for the rezoning. So you can see the boundary that we noticed for the rezoning. And then we have the notice map for the alley vacation. And it looks like I didn't get those correct. So for most of the discussion, I'm going to really focus more on zoning and work off of this map here. Just quickly, a couple of photographs of the site. Commercial building, residential building site. It'd be cleared for development. Tonight we are discussing zoning. They did give us a site sketch and building design concept. If this gets rezoned, if the project moves forward, it'll come back to you for design guideline review, both for DR and multifamily design guidelines. If they didn't get rezoning, they could still move forward with a multifamily project. That would come back to you if it's split zoned. It's just a little more cumbersome because R3 district has setback requirements of 30 or so feet, where DR is an urban type zoning district with little to no setback requirement, minimal setback requirements, like the NPC zoning district. So this is the concept, this is what they are thinking. Columbus Avenue, Southwest First, kind of an L-shaped multifamily building, senior housing, parking to the north. And then just a general concept of the building architecture that they're contemplating. So I've touched a little bit on what the zoning is currently on the ground. I do want to show you the land use map. This is zoomed in. So you can see that part of their property in this area is already designated this red, this is the community mixed use district, or future land use designation. This kind of a orangish color is the medium density, which covers the R3, and then you obviously have institutional designation for the church. So on the ground, this is what our future land use map is showing for this area. Those of you that may have been on the P&Z back in 2006, we did what was called the Two Rivers District Plan for this area. Worked with the neighborhood group, invited property owners at that time, went through a very long planning process. This area was an area that, it still has industrial uses. It still has commercial uses, but it's a little bit in a state of flux. You know, we've seen multifamily development. Back at this time, there was a lot of pressure. Then things slowed down with the economy, but things have picked back up. But so the vision for a while has been to do for this area to be developed in a fashion that's takes advantage of its proximity to the downtown. It's really a periphery of the downtown. It's a part of the downtown, kind of like the Market District on the East Village area. And as follow-up to that planning process that we went through, we actually rezoned a lot of this area. There's no industrial zoning districts left in this area. It was everything that was M1 at the time. There might have been a M2 or two in there, but I think it was predominantly M1, was rezoned to DR. The DR district does allow for the continuation of existing warehousing facilities. So it does allow for that transitioning, but it has the design guidelines. It has uses that are thought of as supporting the downtown riverfront, the kind of development we're looking for there. Within the neighborhood area, a little further to the east, that area was rezoned to NPC. That seemed like an appropriate scaling down in zoning classification as we headed more to the east of the single family development. And this area down here that's R3, that was already R3. That was really, we chose at the time to leave that intact. We felt that, the R3 zoning allows the church to continue on. We also felt that it allowed us to have greater review in this area, transition area, as people come forward, like tonight, at a rezoning process. So we left that rezoning process hurdled there for them to get through. And so that's why we're here tonight, because half of this property is still zoned R3. The other half is DR, which is what they wanted, what they're trying to accomplish. That's kind of the history of it. So, as staff, we are supporting this. We believe it's consistent with the goals of the city's comprehensive plan. It's certainly consistent with, this effort that we went through. We actually talked about having senior housing. I'm not going to go through this plan, page by page, but we actually there's some of the pages that discuss doing senior housing generally in this area. So this really ties in nicely to that. We do have some zoning conditions that we are recommending. DR is a mixed-use zoning classification, so it does allow some commercial uses. So the first one is to prohibit something that we think is not appropriate in this specific spot, and that's tavern nightclub use. The other prohibition or capping the density at 40 units per acre, essentially setting the density at what they're proposing, which I believe is 46 units. My memory's right. Yeah, 46 units. When you calculate that out based off the size of the property, that equals 40 units per acre. So we're setting that. 3 really is this is just putting them on notice and putting everybody, including the public, that there is a process that they have to go through with regard to building codes, site plan regulations. This is a requirement anyway, but we think it's safe to put it in here, put everybody on notice, everybody knows it's there. Same with 4. This is just saying, hey, they got to come back to you guys, like I'd mentioned, for a review of your site plan for any multifamily development. And then 5 addresses the street network. Right now, the roads are not a full urban cross section in the area. As development occurs, it's incremental in what has to be installed. The developer is responsible for what's around them or what they need to service their area. Our recommended zoning condition is that Southwest First be brought to a full urban cross-section, and that whatever they need on Edison and potentially Columbus, they're not showing any connections, but whatever they would need to get to a driveway. So if this was what you saw later, they would need to develop this to a full urban cross-section. And then, the rest of the project would be, either as development occurs or a city project at some some unknown time. We believe that approach is consistent with what our expectations have been of other developers in the past, including the multifamily project that's the north of here that was done maybe a decade ago I think it's right here. Part D, which is the alley vacation, we're recommending approval. We just had our standard language about reserving an easement if there are any utilities in place for those. So happy to answer any questions you might have for staff.
Questions for Jason? Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
If this would stay, if half of the site would stay R3, is there any difference in what number of units you could put on the site?
Yeah, the R3 has a cap of 17 units per acre, so it would reduce the number of units they could do. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that would be. It would depend on where the building is. And
You put the building on the DR portion and put parking on the other?
but that could potentially address that without the rezoning.
Okay, solve it.
I don't know for a fact, but that could potentially.
I have another one.
Go ahead.
There was reference to some of the streets being inadequate.
Right.
Is there any way that the city is improving any of those to help that out?
I'm not aware of anything that's programmed to be constructed. It's, certainly it's understood, but it's not, I don't believe there's something in the CIP currently. I'm not aware.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, is the applicant with us? Please step forward. And if you would kindly state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Pierce Cody. I work with Simonson Architects. We're here representing Corey Steiner, the developer of this project. And I'd be happy to answer any more questions that you might have. I would say in response to Greg's question about if the project remained split zoned, we could not get the 46 units just on the DR side as it currently stands. And without that unit quantity, the project probably becomes financially unviable. Right now, this project is seeking low-income tax credits through their senior project program. And the reason we're here this evening is, even though we've not been awarded those credits, we have to maintain correct zoning so that the project could proceed if we were awarded those credits.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of the proposal? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? I think you're interested. Please step forward. State your name and address for our record.
Hi, I'm Sally, and I have a card. I'm representing 6 people that own the 1807 Southwest 2nd.
And what's your last name, Sally?
I don't give it out because you'll publish it. Sorry. You can make
I
one
just
up.
want to make sure that meets legal requirements.
All right, then Davis, you can use that one. I don't know how to use this little guy,
All
but,
you need to do, ma'am, is, and I'm not sure, if you don't want to say your name in public.
well, it's fine. It's Sally Davis.
Yeah.
I just can have you sign in over here.
Okay.
We don't have to deal
Oh,
with that.
okay.
But this is the overhead camera, so
Oh,
you
and
just
it's on
bring
there
it here,
already?
and I can zoom in and out.
Okay. Okay, what I have is, I got a bigger one. I was trying to show where this is in reference to the river. And then
Do you mind giving her the pointers so she could stay at the mic?
Sorry.
I just use my pen.
Right here.
Yeah, I'll wait until I'm ready for it. If you put it there, I'll just, okay. I'm not in favor of this because I own 1807 Southwest 2nd with other people. So if you look at this is the proposed area here. You agree with that, kind of, maybe?
That's the spot.
Yeah, it's about there. And so I am up here on Southwest 2nd. I bought the house really cheap, and I've been renovating it, and I plan on living there and retiring there. It is a wonderful location. here are my issues. First of all, I was told that no matter what any of us residents say, even though so many of us are opposed, that we've been getting phone calls and told that, bullied away from being here, and told that no matter what we say, it's consented and it's going to go through. And so I know of people that did not come because they knew that their voice wasn't going to matter. So I'm here to represent more than me, because that just pissed me off. Anyway, so that's the only bad word I'll say. Okay, my issue is living here, there is no way that we can support that many people. The streets are narrow. There is no stop sign at all anywhere throughout that. There's no sidewalk. I walk my dogs. I get hit almost, because there's no way for this to happen. I'm on Southwest 2nd. On all of this, there's nothing. And so when they talk about fixing up some of the area, my biggest beef is that living there, it's wonderful, it's great. I don't even drive anymore. I ride my bike or I walk. But you can't get downtown from their proposed location. There's no way to get there. The people who own this area here, that are the industries, they are vehemently opposed to this. And they probably sent the cards. And there's no way to get to the river. How can this be downtown riverfront when there's no way to get there? Unless you trespass through somebody else's parking lot. There's also a property up in this area. This is Jackson Bridge, this thing that cuts across here, or Fifth Avenue Bridge, whatever, and it's great, it's wonderful, but as soon as you cross it, there's a barricade, there's no way to get through. Nothing, even on a bike. So I think that the idea of having subsidized, it's also Section 8. They're going for Section 8 housing, and I've lived in Section 8. I was a single mom. I went back to school, tossed my baby in Section 8. I couldn't wait to get out of college and get out of there. Crap. And I know that it's going to be 55 plus community, but gosh, I'm almost 55, and I sure hope that I'm not going to have to live in sliding fee disabled, or something like that. I just think it's terrible. We don't have the, sorry, I'm nervous. Anyway, so I don't see how this does anybody any good. Like I said, we've been bullied away, being told that our voices don't matter. I have a septic tank. We don't even have sewer systems. The place used to have there are many of us with septic tanks. I think everybody down on that side. There's no sewer system, so it's going to be huge. So I think the idea of building something there sounds great, but you're being a little bit immature and a little bit too proactive. Fix the city before you shove in this thing, build the road before you build the building. Like I said, I don't know what the width of a road needs to be, but it's too narrow. You park one car, you can't get around. And it's also, the only thing I can understand why the church would be going for this at St. Anthony's is because they must be moving. Because there's no way that they would do this. There's a daycare there, there's a church, there's everything else that looks great. And when there are funerals and the church, you can't get through. It's just, I don't know if I'm rambling. But the other thing that we have is a lack of police down there. I've had personally 3 crimes in my house, and the City of Des Moines Police are judge and jury and don't arrest people even if you know who they are. What else did I say on my notes? The other thing is, who pays for the tax burden of all this? If we're changing this to downtown, I would think that downtown taxes are going to be higher. And I know my immediate house and land, which is only 0.2 acres right now, isn't going to be affected, but it will be in the long run. I just really think this is stupid. And I think Section 8 housing is the only reason that they want to go for the federal Section 8 housing is because they're guaranteed 100% occupancy. And I think that we should really have something a little bit with more class in there. There are a lot of nice apartment complexes coming in, and personally, I've had my bike ripped off. Enough with the people in downtown who are stealing. I just am tired of it. So I'm venting, I know, but I just really would like to see something with a little bit more class and not Section 8 housing, because, I don't know, owners care. If you want to swap bulbs with me this spring, I'm there. Renters don't care. And I live next to a renter, and I will see this outside my window every day, and I just think it's atrocious. So, and then when I also asked in the community meeting, that I asked if it could look nicer. And that was when they said, well, it needs to look like the church. And I don't understand why it would need to look like the church unless the church needed to have some sort of addendum that they want to change things. So what else? Do you have any questions about my venting?
I have a question,
Yeah.
Yeah,
please.
go ahead, Will.
I have a question, please. You said that you enjoy living in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Tell us why.
Because it's right there. If you haven't, no one's been on our street. No one goes on our street, which they better not, because you can't. I mean, it's like whenever I take an Uber, they're like, wow, I didn't know there were houses back here. I'm like, I know, it's great. You turn around there, it's quiet. There's another thing that's really cool that happens that I'm sure they would be tearing down some of their trees, is because of the confluence of the rivers, we have a bird migration that's just like crazy. And all these old walnut trees that you're just like, wow. So there's a nature in there from the river. And I just really think that it's not, I don't know, what I envision if I had my magic wand and I could do what I wanted, yes, I can see having something in there, but it's right there off Meredith Trail. You could have, Des Moines going to get big, okay, fine, it's going to spread down there, it's going to have the urban sprawl, but make it in a good way. Make it positive, make it little boutique shops, bring yourself down there. But no one goes downtown anymore. I mean, they park at my house and then they drive somewhere else, or we walk someplace because there's no parking downtown right now. Hopefully there will be. But yeah, it's
Any
very
other
quiet.
questions? Oh, excuse me.
You'd stated that there's no sewer.
No.
And I just wanted to point for the commission's reference in the staff report on page 7, item 7, utilities. Our records show there is a public sanitary sewer main in Edison Avenue, Columbus Avenue, and Southwest First Street. So my guess is you're on septic. When the sewer is put in, you're not required to connect to that unless your septic fails and you're within a certain distance of sewer. So there is public sewer in the area and available to serve the development of this site.
Okay.
And I would assume that if it's in an appropriate distance of your house, if your septic fails, that would be available for you to connect.
Yeah, I've been paying extra on my homeowner's insurance because I know that if something happens, I'm going to have to go there. The thing is that there are 2 overflow ponds that when it rains, we have these sub ponds across on Southwest 2nd, and then another one by the apartments, which is across Dunham. So when it rains, we have 3 feet of water. And Reese and Associates, they always have a foot of water or it turns into ice. There's always a water problem. There used to be a lot of flooding before, I don't know if Mark Luce came to you and spoke. He's since deceased, but he owned 1803 Southwest 2nd, and he, every time it rained, the basements would just flood. And it's obvious my house flooded too. But that was when it was a gravel road and they did a lot of work, but there's nothing, I mean, even when from my street to my house, I can't even get there. I can only access my house from the back door in the winter because there's this hill and no stairs. So if the city's thinking about us, they're not doing a very good job. And this is a spit in their face, I think, to do this. It's like we really are trying to pick this up and trying to make things look nice. And it is a nice community, and you have the church bells and the kids on recess. There's also a daycare, and this is not it's quiet. We don't need this. And it's also a dead end. There's no way to get here. When you look at this property here, this isn't anything you can get to. Like this isn't, no, it's not. That's a ditch. It's like, I don't know, 80 feet up a hill. There's no road. There's no access to any of these things. We're down a hill and you can't get anywhere.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I have just one other thing I want to ask, if I can set this down.
It's just a question. Are you asking a question?
Yes. In the bottom of this, where it states that if we have over 20% of the landowners who put in a writing, whatever, this bottom statement, do the cards count for that? Or can we, if we got together a petition, because I know I can get just about everybody. I don't think I was included, although I think I should have been for the alleyway, but I didn't get that card.
The cards and anything it has to be in writing. So either return the card, we mail the card because we make it easy for people. It's postage prepaid. You can submit a written letter and or a petition with signatures and printed names and addresses, and then we double check those against our records before the council meeting. And if there is more than 20, the owners of more than 20% of the land, within 200 feet of the area being rezoned
Yeah,
in opposition.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it
Yeah.
can't be approved.
No, I know.
It just
Please
takes a
don't, please don't.
6/7 vote. Takes a 6/7 vote of the council.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to reiterate that the individuals you said felt uncomfortable coming tonight. No matter what our action is tonight, there is another opportunity at the city council meeting, which certainly the public is invited to
Yeah.
attend that. So I hope you will share that information with
Yeah,
your...
it just, I think because it was on the consent, so I'm sure if I said something to someone, so it's already on the consent thing.
Sure.
So I can see how somebody could make it look like that to somebody a little bit meeker, but stomping my foot, so.
You'll clarify that with...
I will, I definitely will.
Thank you so much. And now we have an opportunity. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak against the proposal? All right, now you have an opportunity, sir, if you want to come back and or address the concerns that were raised.
Mike Simonson, Simonson and Associates Architects, 1717 Ingersoll. I was not planning on speaking on this project in my 14 years on P&Z. I think this is the third time that I've spoken on one of our projects. I'd just like to correct some information. There were several things that were stated that are not accurate. This is not a dead-end street. There are full utilities in the street. There was water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, power. The alley that we're requesting that be vacated has no utilities in it. It's overgrown. It's not passable. This building will not look like a church. There's nothing wrong with St. Anthony's. It's a vibrant community. I chair the Bishop's Committee on Senior Housing for a number of years, and it was the desire on the part of St. Anthony's to have a senior housing facility here. It's a wonderful campus. They have daycare, a school, as you know. It's very vibrant. It's a landmark in the city of Des Moines. And for several reasons, they being St. Anthony's, elected not to pursue the senior housing. And Corey Steiner entered the picture, desiring to take it over. And St. Anthony's has sold a portion of the property that is now before you because they want to see senior housing there. They see it as an integral part of the neighborhood. So it's not going to look like a church, and what's before you is the rezoning and the vacation of the alley, not the site plan approval. You will see it again. And in part, what excited Corey Steiner about this is just a continuation of the riverfront development that's been already occurring, because most of this land is zoned downtown riverfront. And when you look at the zoning map that staff showed earlier, our piece is an odd little finger that goes up into that downtown riverfront. Everything else around it is downtown riverfront. It is important that we have this zoning because it allows us to meet the minimum number of units to make the project viable. But it also allows us to have off-street parking, and I know that has been a common theme amongst this body to talk about how much off-street parking versus on-street, particularly when you utilize the word downtown. This area is going to, the streets are too narrow to have very much off-street parking. This is a senior project, so some people will not be driving, but in order to have, we want one parking stall per unit off-site so that the people can get off the road and park. The last thing I would like to clarify, this is not Section 8 housing. It's a LIHTC program, so it is income restricted, but it is not Section 8, and there is a program specifically for senior housing that has been a very valuable program for the state of Iowa. Why? Because it keeps seniors in their neighborhoods. It's a way for people to move out of their homes when they no longer desire to or can maintain their home, and to keep them in the neighborhood. Other than that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Yeah, so Mike, and maybe you were referring to this with your last comment, but it's not going to look like a church. And so the quality, can you just address the quality issue? And maybe that's what you were referring to at the end.
Sure, it's going to have durable materials on the exterior. I don't recall what the percentage of brick is for the LIHTC.
The requirements are
Yeah, we're above 50% brick, and then we will use a cementitious siding, which is a very durable material. The city of Des Moines has requirements. We are exceeding the city of Des Moines. Frankly, LIHTC, I think that's a good requirement, that if you're going to receive tax credits, you need to give something in return, and they're very desirous of having very durable, good-looking buildings for an extended period of time.
Right, yeah, well,
Mike, the woman that was opposing this mentioned trees. Could you talk about tree cover and how that might affect the project?
You know, there are trees there. There are some old fence row trees. I chair the Brenton Arboretum Board. I am a tree man. There are one or two trees, in my opinion, that would be worth looking at to save. But other than that, to me, they're undesirable trees. But it's going to be fully landscaped. And again, you will see the site plan. That's going to come back before you, and I think that would be a good opportunity to talk about what trees are there today and what we're doing to save some of those trees.
any other questions? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
So seeing none, I think I will close the public hearing. Commission, what is your pleasure? Greg?
I guess I'd just like to make a comment, basically to maybe enlighten her just a little bit, that it might seem preconceived about the way this is going. And part of the reason for that is that the neighborhood came up with a plan 10 to 15 years ago. It wanted to be developed more than just single-family housing. The current plan is Lot DR, which gets multifamily housing. The site, half the site is R3, it's multifamily housing. So the bottom line is it's not going to be single-family homes or duplexes or that low of development. It's going to be something bigger. And so we're not ignoring what the neighbors are saying. What we're doing is looking at the documents that we have before us. That's our comprehensive plan, it's the neighborhood planning document, and what staff tells us. And so we come up with based on what we've seen, a reasonable response to all of those things. And so what it might seem to those who aren't familiar with the process that we're not ignoring. What we're doing is taking everything that we have before us and making a decision that is best based on all of those things. And so with that said, I'll just move staff.
Thank you.
Could I say something?
Sure, yeah.
I just wanted to say that tonight, you demonstrated that you can pull something off of consent and we can discuss it. And I think communicating that back to your neighbors is really important. Because I wouldn't want anyone to feel bullied or...
Yeah, she said, I want to. Can I just say that I just think that, I know it's going to change, obviously it's going to change. It's need for change, but like when we started the Lego building, it was just down the grass and you build yourself up. It's going to be premature. And there I don't, as far as sewers, those are in the street. Yeah. It's floods in my yard, so there's definitely a water problem.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion to move staff. All those in favor, please signify. Oh, good point. Okay. What we're going to do is separate the vote into the three parts that were listed in the staff recommendation. Part A, so are you agreeable to that, Greg, since you made the motion? Part A was that the commission find that the requested rezoning DR is not in conformance with the existing medium-density residential, as in Plan Des Moines. So, is there action on motion for Part A?
Greg? Right?
Is that okay? Okay. So all those in favor of the staff recommendation on Part A, please signify by raising your hand. Are there any opposition? Thank you. Part B is staff recommendation approval of the amendment to Plan Des Moines, creating the, or moving from medium density to community mixed use. Is there action or is there a motion regarding that recommendation?
I'll move Part B.
Thank you. All those in favor of staff recommendation on Part B, please signify by raising your hand. Is there any opposition? Seeing none. Part C is the recommend approval of rezoning to downtown riverfront district, subject to the following conditions, which were highlighted. Tavern, nightclub area uses are prohibited. The total number of residential units developed on the subject property shall not exceed the 40 units per acre. Any redevelopment of the property shall conform with the building codes and site plan regulations, including the design guidelines reviewed by Plan and Zoning Commission. Any redevelopment on the property for multiple family residential shall conform to site plan design guidelines for multiple family dwellings and reviewed by the commission. And any redevelopment of property shall require full urban cross-section reconstruction of all adjoining portions of Southwest First along any continuous segment of public street, providing a route to access any developed off-street parking on subject property. Is there a motion?
Move staff.
Thank you. All those in favor of staff recommendation on Part C? Is there any opposition? All right. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, there's Part D. Part D, I apologize, is recommendation on vacation of the north-south segment of the public alley subject to the easements of any utilities in place or any necessary relocation of expense of the developer as part of any redevelopment of the property. Is there action? Thank you. All those in favor of Part D? Is there any opposition? All right. Thank you. We are done with that item. And so I believe that concludes all of our items tonight. So committee reports or director reports. Is your committee reporting yet, or you just kind of got organized, right?
I'm sorry, what's
The nominating committee.
The nominating committee is working, but we'll give a report in due course.
At the next meeting. Very good. All right, any other reports? I move that this meeting be adjourned, 7:10.
Anyone know? Don't tell me. I'm going home. I got it recorded.
Yeah, because I remember last year you were trying to.